Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 152nd iteration of the show, recorded on the 2nd of August 2015. My name is Josh Trelevan, with me as always on the other microphone.
Co-host extraordinaire, Ryan Kirkby.
And it's Ryan. Hey Ryan, how you doing?
Tired. Had a nice long day at work today. Man, you know what? It's always a little harder to work during a long weekend, which it is up here in Canada, right?
Oh yeah, happy BC Day.
For those of you in BC, it's BC Day, and it's something else for every darn province, so...
Well, it's technically BC Day everywhere. It's just their other governments don't recognize it for some reason.
They celebrate it under a different name.
Celebrate it.
Also, the thing is, it's not always celebrated like as BC Day all across BC. Back in my hometown, we'd usually call it Visitor Appreciation Day, have a big old pancake breakfast for everyone down on the main street. We closed the main street down, so no truck drivers going on through.
All right.
And it'd be like, hey, congratulations, Albertan tourists, you are so much of our economy, we have to celebrate you on BC Day. Woo!
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's... When you live that close to Alberta, I wonder if, maybe celebrating
Well, that's the thing,
BC Day.
There are a lot of properties there that are, purchased by fairly well-to-do Albertans, and they do add so much to our economy during the summer as opposed to, like, the average small town in there. So we really do give a lot of thanks to them.
Yeah.
And especially with the ski hill, because there was a really good, panorama ski hill close by, and so it's like, oh boy, instead of, like, trying to get them to, go to some other, ski place. It's like, no, don't go to Whistler. Don't take the flight over to Vancouver and then go to Whistler. Just take a nice trip through the park, and then you're basically here.
Yeah, true.
So hooray!
But isn't, BC objectively a better province than Alberta?
At this point, thanks to the economy, yes. We are more diversified economically, therefore we are inherently better. Sorry to say it, Alberta, you're kind of bringing down our GDP.
For Canada.
Well, they got so focused on their oil revenues.
For how many years were they the economic driver of Canada, for good or ill?
Well, that's the thing, is because they were getting such good results, like the government wanted to focus more on them and really pump it up, and then Iran starts putting out a lot of cheap oil, and all of a sudden, oh no, prices fall to like $50 a barrel. So it's like, well, there you go. That's what happens when you don't diversify enough.
Yeah, weird world.
Speaking
of politics, what
I would very heavily have supported initiatives that would have put tariffs on raw product exports as opposed to finished products.
Oh yeah,
because BC has had a similar issue with timber, softwood in this case being for BC, where I would love to see a tariff on exporting raw timber, but no tariff on, say, exporting furniture made out of wood.
Yeah, that would help us build up some other industries in the province. Sure.
And Alberta has a similar issue. They pump out the crude. I would like to see them pump out the refined stuff, which is always in high demand everywhere.
Yeah.
The economy, is not doing too good. We're technically in the recession, and the Canadian dollar is down to, was it 75 cents now? Getting even lower.
Yeah.
It's dropping pretty bad, but the gas prices are still high.
Yeah. Because
everyone still needs gas. So, like Alberta, if you'd put in a refining station, you could have been, selling your crude to the refinery. The refinery could have been selling it to the rest of, Western Canada very easily.
Yeah, that's true. Well, refineries are expensive to build. It's capital intensive, and it's another thing that has to be built on land that people complain about. So it's not just as simple as just building a refinery.
But you wind up getting away with eliminating a lot of problems. The issues of oil spills coming out of the pipelines is so contentious here in well, maybe not in Alberta, but everywhere else in Western Canada, because it's the crude stuff that gets pumped out onto the wonderful pristine nature around it.
Yeah.
It's not pristine nature. If you got a pipeline going through there, you have actually damaged wilderness going through it. It's not pristine. But it's fairly, healthy ecosystem. The crude oil is a lot harder to clean up than the refined stuff.
Is it? Okay.
The refined stuff, it floats on most surfaces.
Yeah,
as you see, the wonderful colors on the road after a long dry period, and then it rains. As opposed to the crude, which balls up and sinks to the bottom. So if you were to have refined oils, and all that stuff going through, it would make a lot easier for cleanup, and it would be a lot easier to say, listen, if we spill this much, it cleans itself up in approximately 24 hours because of evaporation. Just don't breathe in for a bit. As opposed to, this will permanently scar the landscape for the next 20 years.
Well, I'm not sure. It's like anything else. There's trade-offs, pros and cons.
Yes, but that said, some of the most contentious negative parts of pumping out the crude could be just eliminated by putting out the refined stuff. Oh no, we've got a refined gas, spill. How do we get rid of it? Throw a match, contain the area, it cleans itself up. You can't do that with crude. Not the same way. You might want to make sure the pipeline's shut off first and properly sealed up before you throw that, match.
Well, since we're talking about weighty subjects like economics and the environment and politics, should we mention that...
I think as of this morning, it was officially.
Canadian election coming up.
It's an 11-week election period, which is about twice the normal length. So, if you think this is not related to fiction, just wait till you see those attack ads. This is going to be a magnificent, season for trying to wade through a bunch of BS and half-truths. So everything I've taught you guys, everything, out there that, for all the conspiracy theories, teaching you how to think constructively, objectively, this is the test now. This is where it comes in. Welcome to your finals.
Yeah. You're
going to be seeing a lot of attack ads. Well, if you're here in Canada, you will. You'll be hearing a lot of attack ads, a lot of people, doing sound bites and all that. It's you're going to be your job to figure out the truth and wade through these half lies and otherwise just piles of bull. There you go. This is your task out there. Your reward is being an informed citizen. That's its own reward, honestly. So there you go. Everything I've prepped you for. Now is your time to fly.
Yeah.
Fly, my pretties, fly.
And I suppose one other lesson to know is that there is no perfect party again.
No. As I like to say to people asking me on this, my perfect party would be the Grey Party for science. They would base all their policies off of empirical studies. All other parties seem to have an ideology they try and follow, none of which completely meshes with the scientific data. Mm-hmm. So there is no perfect party for me, but I can utilize my study and research skills to find one that would best align with my desires.
Yeah, or the least bad party. Yeah.
That said, if I could get some sort of trust on the NDP for getting rid of our once past the post system, I could see myself going out and trying to help them. Throw out pamphlets door to door and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's a good issue. Yeah.
I am really not a fan of it. Although I will state, you look over at Greece, who has abolished the once past the post. They use a proportionate votes, and so they wind up with a 10% Nazi government. Which is effectively a 10% neo-Nazi, golden whatever party they call it. And so maybe there should be some sort of criteria to prevent people from just voting for the insane. You would have to have either an independent run, so they got to work on their own cash, independent cash, which limits them that way. And you got to get enough of them to get one X of the votes to get that one seat of theirs.
Yeah.
Otherwise, maybe you could only go with a party, only parties that have views that do not conflict with, say, our charters of rights and freedoms. So if you got like a party out there that says we want to, what's something in the charters of right and freedom?
Oh, in the Charter of Rights.
Well, let's say the freedom of peaceful assembly is, I think, a very nice one. We got a party out there that says we want to make certain that you're not allowed to assemble in any sort of groups. That party would not be allowed on the ballots. So long as you have like party whose platform meshes with like the core tenets of the Canadian society, then yeah, okay, slot whoever you want in there and make it work that way.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Just to get rid of the really crazy fringe, dangerous party that might be able to waylay enough of the other crazy or mentally lazy enough not to research what the heck's going on.
I'd imagine though, like in a normal, healthy society, like you get weird things in a country like Greece because people feel pressured and they feel like there's an emergency or there's something urgent happening, and that's why they sort of vote for extremes. I think that's my theory on it.
And we can also look over at Italy, who tends to vote on the lines of who would be the most entertaining rather than qualified. So they get some very, very interesting people in Italy. Qualified at their job? I won't make that statement. I'll leave that for the political pundits.
That must be how Rob Ford got elected.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump, for that matter.
Well, fingers crossed he ain't getting elected. He's just on the ticket right now for the nominees. At least, I got my fingers crossed. I think he would be an absolutely horrible president of the United States.
Trump? Yeah.
Oh, yes. I think he would make a great Republican nominee and runner just to help make sure that Democrats get a huge landslide victory. This guy said enough stuff he can effectively put both feet in his mouth, and that's just the beginning.
I suspect Trump would not be as bad as just comparing him to some of the Republicans, because the Republicans, they know what they're doing and they definitely have an agenda for sort of their sponsors, their financial sponsors. So they know what they're doing. Trump doesn't seem like
he doesn't need a sponsor,
wealthy,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So he'll just do whatever he thinks is a good idea. He's ego-driven, yes. So he'll do a lot of dumb things, sort of like George W. Bush with his whole, we don't need to worry about Osama bin Laden and all that. So he'll do dumb things.
What's that? Somebody's driven a plane into the towers. I got to finish reading this kid's book first.
Well, yeah, that might be a thing. I think Trump might just. He might be like, I won. Okay, well, I guess I'll choose a vice president and let them run it because this is boring.
Well, see, but here's the thing, though. It's like Trump has declared bankruptcy 4 times. Yeah. Not because he was really, I'm completely out of money, but he did it to avoid paying people. He transfers all the possessions of his off to other people, declares bankruptcy, gets the stuff back from the other people, and winds up not having to pay the workers who built his empire.
That's true. Yeah.
I really am hesitant to see what a person like that would do as leader of the free world, as they say.
Well, if a country declares bankruptcy.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it's actually not. I mean, yes, it's bad for some people because some people who put in work
trillions of dollars of money and wiped out.
But also, when a country does the United States, they could be okay, we're printing. You remember the $1 trillion coin, the platinum coin?
Yes.
That's actually you can do that, and obviously people are gonna be that's
I will counter with Zimbabwe, where you can print $1 trillion bill as much as you want, but it still takes $6 trillion to buy a banana. You turns out printing money to help, just giving it off to your friends means you devalue the currency.
It would, and that's the thing. That's what would happen is the currency would be devalued, but you would.
Which doesn't help Zimbabwe because they're using the American dollar now too. So, boy, you're going to get a lot of angry mails from Zimbabweans. Come on, we just switched to you.
But the difference is Zimbabwe is very much based on natural resources, mining and
anything, tyrannical dictatorship. Yes.
Yeah. Whereas the United States has this other, like, sort of developed economy that's diverse and everything like that. So
not as diverse as it should be, but it's
like
it's quite nice, yes.
It's like the most, you know, I mean, it's not great, but it's the most...
It's one of the best in the world. I would still like to see it diversified even further.
Sure, yeah.
As I say, you know, like, the more diversified you are, the better you are against, you know, like, oh no, economic downturns.
Yeah, well, I'm in favor of diversity, I can say that, yeah.
So yeah.
That's
it. I don't think there's a single nation on the planet I could say is, oh no, they are too diversified. How, you know, they got to consolidate, man. Get rid of some jobs in these sectors. No. So, for me, it's like a never-ending spectrum. You know, it just goes on forever. But yes, this is all very, very interesting times for everybody here in North America, it seems. Such as it is. I mean, politically, I suppose if you're not into politics, it's still going to be a boring, annoying time.
Hey, I just thought of something.
What's up?
Do you know how the United States requires their president to be a citizen? Or not only a citizen, but also born in the States?
Born in America.
We don't have that, do we?
I
think you have to be a citizen to be
there's a minimum age. I mean, you can't be prime minister before the age of 25. You do have to be a Canadian citizen. I don't think you have to be born in Canada.
Well, I don't think the actual position of prime minister. I think it's just it's the same requirement as a member of parliament.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's any additional. Besides, you have to be a leader of a party and have people decide that you're going to be the guy we listen to. But yeah, I don't know if it has any more requirements than that. I
don't think there are. I think it's just the basic 5 requirements they've always had for the MPs.
Okay.
I think. I don't believe they've changed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be very interesting times coming up for everyone in North America. It would be happier for me, I suppose, if attack ads didn't do so well for bumping up like one party's ratings. Because I like seeing the more positive sort of attitudes, you know, like, hey, vote for me because of this. Not like, I'm seeing some ads like, don't vote for this person. He's not qualified. We're your only hope. And it's like, whoa, that's like really not a good reason I should be voting for you, Party X.
Well, is it the negativity about that, or is it just the flat-out wrongness of it?
I just find it really petty.
Yeah.
I would like to see, like, vote for us because we stand for this, not don't vote for them because they're going to mess it up. And it's like, well, like, come on, guys. Like, make me want to vote for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Because abstaining is always an option, and that's kind of why we get such low voter turnouts.
But in what we have in Canada a little bit is we have this ABC movement that's anything but conservative. And like me, I mean, my politics are sort of have in recent years veered, left for whatever various reasons towards the NDP and stuff. But there are Canadians who might be kind of in the middle and somewhat, and then they're so upset with the Conservative government that they're voting. They're not necessarily voting for either Liberals or NDP. They're voting against the Conservatives, which
is still in a multi-party system a very poor choice to have that ununified exodus.
Yeah. Because
so long as the one party can get more votes than the other, not even needing a majority, they'll still go in power. That's one of the reasons why, like they say, the right has done so well politically in Canada. We've got so many left parties, they splinter the vote. Everyone who's on the right wing winds up voting for just the one party. And so they get more votes because it's an unfractured thing. So the best thing that could happen for the liberal, not small L liberal, parties in BC would be for another conservative motion to swing up and have two right-wing parties.
Yeah, could split, yeah.
To help fracture that vote. And that's it. My ideal government at this point, ignoring my hypothetical gray party that actually bases things on empirical evidence, would be a coalition government, because that means everyone's working together, and that's really what the nation's about. It's a lot of people working together.
Lots of diverse viewpoints.
And somehow. You have to find some way to make it work for as many of them as possible, and that comes out best, I find, from coalitions. Or minority governments. That means you got to play, by everybody's rules. You can't just say, I got so much of the vote, I don't have to care. If you see anything besides a fist coming from this hand, it's going to be just one raised digit. Guess which one? So, I prefer when people are playing, at least trying to act friendly to each other as they try and get their own views passed.
All right. Yeah.
So, that's my ideal outcome is, like no one party wins a majority vote. So we work together.
I don't hate things like minority governments and coalition governments. I don't think they're terrible.
They are a little bit more inefficient. I'll say that.
But I don't have too much against. I think if I had a preference, I'd rather the party I voted for get my vote and get in. But that's.
But as I said, can you really say to yourself, is there one party that really espouses all my beliefs?
No. Not.
I see. I am in favor of the Liberals' version of decriminalizing or legalizing marijuana, but not without some very good registration and legislation on it. I don't want it just to suddenly become not illegal. I want it to be a situation whereby the THC contents are very heavily monitored and controlled. So that way, somebody who's more susceptible to psychoses would be able to choose something with a very low THC content to minimize the chances of hallucinations.
Okay, very sensible. Very sensible.
Sadly, that's the party I want, the Grace Sensibles. That's my ideal party. Yeah. So, on the other hand, Mulcair's, get rid of once past the post. But Elizabeth May, with her Green Party's got some real good views on the environment. Yeah. So it's I'd like all of these. And the Conservatives, I like some of their haircuts. That's the best thing I can say about a lot of their policies right now.
You like their haircuts. You don't like Justin Trudeau's haircut?
I think he could get himself a really good snazzy haircut, but because he's got that wavy hair, he'd have to find something that works just right for it. That said, I prefer people who have haircuts like my own, and the Conservative Party for some reason favors haircuts like my own.
All right.
Don't know why. I'm not very conservative. I don't know why that shows up as a connection between our hairstyles, but whatever.
All right. Well,
nice.
Is that enough politic talk for
yes.
the Simulationist?
But yes. So long story short, keep your bull radars, on high alert and watch everything coming in and just analyze it. Don't pay attention to the negativity of it and you can't vote for this person, you can't vote for that person. See how they're trying to lead you. Take the step back and see the path they're trying to put you on. Yep. Become bigger than the ad.
Very good. Should we talk about Godicon now?
Oh, yes. Rather bad news this week.
Well, no more. At least no more. Not Godicon is not going to happen next year, unfortunately.
Due to changes in the city of Victoria's regulations and a last-minute loss of the standard final weekend of February venue, combined with a lack of profitability with this last year's Godicon, and the loss of 3 of their more senior management members. It was all just a 1-2-3 knockout blow. The 2 lead designers for Godicon have decided this year that has already come and gone was their last year. I feel particularly bad because I would have liked to have gone, but I had some, car troubles, and I wasn't able to say, I'm going to spend the money and go to a convention when it's I can just barely, make ends meet to, make sure my car is running again. So it's I missed it because of circumstance.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I did my part. I mean, I didn't have to buy a ticket, but I did anyways. Mm-hmm. Even though,
and you contributed.
Yeah, I ran an event.
I did what I could. I bought a lot of things at that silent auction every year, and they get part of that money,
So, I don't know where all that money went, but...
the convention center's not cheap, and then there's, hydro and all that stuff you got to do, too. And it costs a decent amount to get the registrations all passed and the paperwork done.
Although, I forgot, I did get 2 books, but I think Wizards of the Coast actually contributed those. I got 2 of the Monster Manual and Dungeon Master's Guide.
Oh, very nice.
So, that's a fair value, but that wasn't directly from Godicon. That was from WotC. I believe.
Well, it's just the thing. We are very fortunately situated in that we can just take the Clipper ferry to Seattle. In Seattle, because home of Wizards of the Coast, oh, hey, I guess, yeah, they've got a convention every once in a while. Oh, hey, they've also got that Penny Arcade Expo once a year.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're really hurting for places we can go to. But that said, it's not just like I'll hop, the mass transit and go downtown and there it is waiting for me.
Yeah, and I was just watching, people on Twitter sending back all their pictures from Gen Con.
Oh, yes, Gen Con, yes. It's been a great year this year, I believe.
Also, Victoria is going to have IFCon too, right?
Yes. So there's that, but I was kind of hoping, because I not this last year, but the year before, I took my little daughter Zoe, and she's got a little lanyard for Zoe on there, and that was all nice, and oh boy, hooray! And then it's like, oh, I can't, accrue a large variety of them as the years go by. I would have loved to have brought her there, dress up in a costume and have her just be a tiny little cosplayer as she goes around with Daddy.
I just thought of something. I should remind our listeners, if you are in Prince George, I don't know if we have any listeners in Prince George. Maybe some.
If you're in the area, you'd be in Vanderhoof, down in Quesnel,
But there is NPC Con is coming up. I believe it's in the fall.
Yes, look it up, see how far away you are from there, what the cost would be, hotel room rentals and all that.
It'll be cheaper than GotaCon would have been.
Much cheaper than going to Gen Con and all that.
Although getting to Prince George is another matter.
Well, it's in the fall, so it's not like you have to go through the passes during the winter.
Yeah.
Conceivably, you could be over in Edmonton and decide to just make the trip over west, and it's a fairly easy trip that way, all things considered.
Yeah.
So, give it a thought.
So, yeah, lots of things still happening, even though we've lost one of our beloved Victoria conventions.
Yeah. That's just kind of a harsh blow. It's thinking, oh, man.
Yep.
But I loved it. Every year I attended, I loved it to pieces. And honestly, there's still some stuff I got at the auctions I haven't, opened or read through yet. So maybe next year I'll just take the weekend off and just do a whole lot of reading. And it's like, the legacy of of GotaCon.
Yeah.
In lieu of the Gen Cons and the Emerald City Cons and the PAXs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They're good conventions, all of them, but they're not mine. Oh well. I suppose third part for news.
More news.
Yes, it's been a very busy week for news this week. Windows 10 gets released.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I've been told it's like Windows 8, but better. Okay. So hooray! Yeah. That said, I haven't got it on my little netbook, and my desktop computer is not getting a free upgrade, so I won't be converting.
Yeah. Well, so along with Windows 10, there's a new version of Minecraft, and we often veer into Minecraft territory.
And that's the interesting thing is, right now you've got the Minecraft, the Java version, you've got the Minecraft on the console version with the Xboxes, you've got your Minecraft Pocket Edition, and so they've got the Minecraft Windows 10 beta. If you have Minecraft, on the Java, you get to download for free. For everyone else, it's like a $10 thing, which is not a bad price for a good game. Mm-hmm. Still in beta, and after it gets out of beta, you still get to keep your game and all that, and you get the updates for free. And it's got some interesting connections with the Pocket Edition version, like you can play with people in the Pocket Edition sort of stuff. So this is compatible that way. It allows for a LAN for up to 7 friends. You get 8 of you together, all playing together on something. Which I'm thinking back to the day, before I was a father, before I was a husband, there was I had two roommates, and it's oh man, we could have had our own Minecraft server effectively up and just all playing together. Dang, man, dang. Oh well, I don't regret the life I have. I've got a wonderful wife and a beautiful daughter. But I could have had Minecraft on a LAN. Well, maybe in a few more years, my daughter will be old enough she can be playing on my wife's computer, and we can play together that way. I am a little wary about what this is going to do for the modding community. I like my mods. I've grown very attached to them, so it's going back to vanilla Minecraft. I do not know. But I suppose I'll give it a shot. I mean, if I download it for free, then all it costs me is a little time.
Yeah.
But I need to get Windows 10 first. That's my big hurdle. My netbook is nowhere near capable of running Minecraft.
Well, Windows 10? Because Windows 10 is supposed to be less resource intensive than previous releases.
Yeah, right now my netbook starts hanging around 3 web pages open. It's good for writing, it's good for reading PDFs. I can go on to 1 or 2 pages, but it loads slow with the ads.
So in theory, Windows 10 might actually help that problem. So,
I do have to spend the time to get it, because my netbook gets it for free, apparently, so hooray! Yeah. But yeah, so that's a big thing. So hopefully this rolls out smoothly and better. I know things have to progress. It can't always look the same desktop forever. You got to keep marching on. But that said, you can always do it a little bit better and maybe allow for options. Like they got back the whole start menu icon thing.
Yeah.
Keep the familiarity. Keep things so that people can recognize it. And that's what you got to do. And it looks like they're succeeding that way. Fingers crossed.
My desktop theme, like I always try and revert it back, so basically it looks like Windows 95.
I don't mind some of the smoothing edges and some of the multicolor shades on there, but I do prefer more muted gray to their bubbly blue.
Yeah.
That's just me, though.
You and your grays.
Well, this way it's a gray that doesn't distract. Like with the blue, it's like a very like almost neon bright blue, and so that way, like if I'm reading a news story, I don't want to be like paying attention to anything else. I want to read that news story and get it all in my head proper. Minimize my distractions.
All right. Yeah.
And what can I say? I mean, gray is a very useful shade for a lot of stuff. If I could get some more muted colors on there, I'd consider that. But yeah, I like mine in the classic sort of version as well. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
The relatedness to fiction in this one, though, would be the fact that a lot of people are saying they have to download a lot of their games all over again.
Oh, yeah.
So I suppose hopefully you have games that just need a downloading. You don't oh no, this was never a game that could be downloaded. Now that it's on my disc and non-compatible, it's an ancient and old hardware game. No!
Yeah. I was installing some software, some hardware. Well, a little, USB thing I was installing. And it needed, for some reason, they had the drivers were on a CD. So I had to open up my case and unplug my extra hard drive and plug in, because I didn't have enough data.
Ports.
The little cables or whatever. So, because I haven't been using my DVD
player in a while.
Rewriter player.
I recommend you go to the library and rent more movies.
Yeah, I should. Yeah. But then I'll have to, because I had to open up the case, switch it over, put in the CD, run it, and then, take out the CD. Don't forget to take out the CD before you turn it off, because then it'll be in there forever. And then unplug it again, unplug the DVD player, and then plug in my extra hard drive, and then close up the case again. So next time I want to run rent a DVD or whatever, I'll have to
do it all. Hey, I have to do the same thing when I want to switch from a DVD player to the VCR I've got.
Oh yeah.
And I do have some nice movies. Maybe a little later on this week I'll be showing Zoe Evolution.
Yeah.
Which is a spiritual sequel to Ghostbusters, I think. So see how well it goes. It's an Ivan Reitman film.
David Duchovny in it.
Yeah, David Duchovny, Sean William Scott. I can't remember. There's a decent number of well-known actors. Dan Aykroyd has a cameo. One of the guys from Mad TV, I think, was in there, too. Yeah, it's a fairly worth it. The cartoon was nowhere near as good as the real Ghostbusters cartoon, but, it can't always be that good. Right. And it's a good standalone movie on its own. I enjoyed it, so I'll hopefully enjoy showing it to my daughter.
But, yeah, speaking of the library, though, we should plug, I guess maybe it's a Victoria thing, but Hoopla, it's called Hoopla, and you go on there and you can connect to your local library and you can get free streaming. Yeah, videos,
I haven't checked that out myself. I've been too
shows.
busy. Right this week alone, I've got Star Wars, Clone Wars stuff, the Scooby-Doo movie, and the King Kong remake to watch.
Yeah,
I've only got so many hours, man, before my eyes start blowing out here. Come on.
Well, you gotta
strengthen my eyeballs,
because you got to bring them back to the Simulationist.
Next week we'll talk about King Kong and how good Jackson did it with Jack Black.
Yeah. We haven't discussed King Kong yet, have we?
No, I haven't seen King Kong yet. The original. I've seen the original.
The most recent.
I have it on my table. I can see it from where I'm sitting right now. But it's a 3-hour epic, sort of thing. And I just haven't watched it yet. I mean, I only got it back on Friday, and there was, movies on Saturday, other stuff. My daughter wanted to watch Ghostbusters this week again. And how could I say no to a daughter that walks up to me and says, Daddy, and she holds up the jewel case, will you watch Ghostbusters? Say, oh, you're melting my heart here, kid. Oh, of course we'll watch Ghostbusters together. How can I say no to my precious little Buster?
Right. Should we talk about what we've been up to aside from all of those other things?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm keeping up with all the news this week. I am still trying to finish off that dang wall in Minecraft.
Oh, you're building a wall around your town.
A very nice wall. Not just, standard, like, this is a one wide thing. This goes 3 to 4 squares wide. Very ornate sort of style. With unique sort of lighting around it. Very nice. I'm quite liking the design and how it looks in the background. I'm really going to hate that final quarter because it's like going up against a mountain. So I'm going to have to chisel out an extra section of the mountain just to put in the wall, and then to make sure monsters can't effectively leap off the side of the mountain and onto my fortress wall. Yes. I'm going to have to wind up sloping the mountain away. So I'm going to have to chisel away, I'm going to bet half of a mountain. Yay! I did do a little bit more back exploring, like I noted, oh hey, there's a temple from the archaeology mod there. I want to check out this town, do this here. I noticed there's like a node down in the ground there. So I did some checkout and exploring and double checking because I want to get more oreberry bushes. Mm-hmm. And so I'm double checking to say, okay, who in this town has got like a good deal for this one I need, and who's got a good one this one there I need. So I found a few very good deals, which means I should just clear off a little bit more space and actually get started on my, I'm not sure what to call it. It's a trading post in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to try and group things together based on what people are, like selling and buying and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I've been mucking around a little bit more with the Soul Shards mod, and I have got a very good chicken shard that will generate 3 chickens every 10 seconds, despite the fact that I have no need for chicken carcasses at this point. Mm-hmm. I suppose once the trading post gets opened up and I get the trading stuff... that's right, which reminds me, Josh, when I get to like tier 4 trades, do they ever shut down again? Because I know you make too many trades with the one, and then you got to trade with the second tier to open up the first one again. Like, when you get all tiers open, do they always stay open, or do I have to keep trading back and forth to keep this stuff open?
I think, well, the last time, this might be out of date, but the last time
it is. The 188 stuff is a different, more unified trading style.
Okay, the last time I was doing trading, yes, once a trade shuts down, all you have to do to open it up again is trade something either...
At the next tier, because the next tier
trade something higher up, like later on in the list.
Yeah, so if the tier 2 closes down, you have to trade for a tier 3. Yeah. But once tier 4 opens up, then it's like open game for everything, or do they still shut down periodically? You gotta do a different style trade.
I think you can keep on going indefinitely. Like I think.
Oh, so like once you reopen like tier 1, it'll always stay open then?
Well, it'll close and then you got to open it again.
Oh, it's through a tier 2 or tier 3 trade then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Not ideal, but I can still make it work. Because right now, the only way for me to get the gold ore berries to, like trade with landmines, which require redstone. So I'm thinking, maybe I should just find somebody I can trade that has an item that, I can like deconstruct, thanks to the deconstruction mod, to get the little redstone out. Then once I get all the gold ore berry bushes I need, I'm done with that finally.
I've always thought, like, maybe I've expressed this before, but I kind of wish that the villagers sort of had an inventory kind of deal, like is more realistic, more of like actual
a self-depleting inventory, like oh no, we don't need any more wheat right now, and then you come back a little later on and their wheat levels have gone down.
Yeah, maybe they've used up some wheat, but maybe in the meantime they farmed up some carrots or something, Little. Like,
I think the one, was it Millionaire mod has something like that?
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah.
Which I might want to consider like on the next game I play. I do not believe I will be starting next to a town anymore. Thanks to the various Thumbcraft mods I have, I can transport mundane villagers to where I am. Still can't teleport across the landscape as I'd like. I haven't found a mod for like way gates like they have in Diablo 2.
Oh, yeah.
I would love something like that, but I haven't seen a mod that does it. So,
well,
yeah.
Did you see in, I think it's 1.8 version, but you can, in Minecraft, you can build teleporters by, you need a slime block on a piston, and the piston has to be on a clock, so it's like, like constantly, like up and down. Like, so you have one of those rapid clocks, but you can do that. And then on top of that, there's like, you put a little waterfall, like a 1 block wide by
stream of water coming down.
You have to build like a little circle or a square at the top for the water to
fall
through.
So it doesn't spread out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you get an ender pearl, and you throw it. You stand in the waterfall on top of the bouncing
shift and piston.
You throw your ender pearl up in the water,
up to the water source,
and then then you leave, and then it bounces on the slime block without actually, going
expending.
Off, or so you don't.
It doesn't trigger.
Yeah, and then what you can do is from there you have to build a redstone line, like it's pretty, to another location. But basically,
and then whenever you shut off that location, it stops the piston and you teleport to there.
Yeah.
That seems a little convoluted, but very awesome.
It's something I saw it in an Ethos Lab video. He probably found it from somewhere else because he usually does that. But I think he improved on the design a little bit and did his own. I might just throw that in the show notes just so people see.
Very interesting. That said, I mean, given what their tools are and what I've seen for various other mods, it seems like you could very easily create a Thaumcraft multi-structure thing to create like a waypoint that connects to any other waypoint on the same world.
Probably be.
In which case, it shouldn't be too hard to even name each one. So that way you could have like, this one will teleport me to this town. So I got like name a town in your world, Josh.
Squaredia.
In that case, yes, this is a Squaredia teleport location. So you can blink between. Now you'd have to go to those locations and build it up first, to make sure you do that. But at least you're there.
Yeah.
Oh well. Like barring modding myself, all that, and I don't have the time to be doing that. Right. I've got a long list of stuff to do in Dwarf Fortress, which I haven't played in a long time because that requires a lot of devotion. Although I do have a day off this week. With my daughter in the daycare, maybe I could get my dwarf on.
That would be cool, yeah.
Or just get my mod on for the dwarves. Whatever.
Yeah.
I've just been doing some exploring, some upkeep. I've been making things look a little bit better. Well, I can. Other than that, it's just been trying to finish off a project that is just so large. But once I'm done, it's going to look spectacular. I've got a mind in my head, image of what the trading post will be like. I'm going to put in a temple. I'm thinking I'm going to put in a tavern as well. Nice place to have some villagers, just, hey, you want some beer? Sure.
Nice.
And general stuff like that. It's going to be very nice when I'm done. But that's going to take a lot of time to finish things off and get it all done right. Maybe I can speed up the time with cutting off the mountain, but I'll have to look into that for how well that might work. Oh, well. I did realize I missed something completely obvious in amidst the viewing program for Minecraft.
Okay, what?
It shows, if you click the right button in there, the location of nether fortresses.
Oh, yeah.
So all I have to do is look, hey, there's another fortress this way, close to where I am. It looks like it's just east of where I am, and hey, I have a large section where I'm drilling myself east in the nether. So, hey, who knows, maybe this time next week, forget what else I'm doing. I ignore the wall entirely. I got myself, a nether wart farm now. I'm into potions. Oh,
ooh,
yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be pretty groovy, I think. That said, I really do want to get the wall up so I can be well defended, well, at least well defend the villagers, so that way I can have a good chance at capturing some of these pecks from the Mistcraft mod, so that I can do some interesting trades with them and maybe get some freaking mana beans that I need to really get the end game stuff for some of the game stuff. And it's like I'm just waiting for them right now. I'm just waiting. That's all it is right now. Oh well. I'm enjoying what I'm doing as I'm doing it. And as a bonus, I can pause at any time on the game, which is a big bonus for me as a parent to a kid who's a little under the weather. I would love to play so many games, but they just don't allow for pausing. And that's like, as a parent, I can't do that anymore. Oh well. Tactical turns and pausing abilities is all I really need. But how about you, Josh? What's been your activities this week in fiction?
Activities. Okay, a little bit of Minecraft, not too much. A little bit. Do you remember I was building a snowman thing in the sky?
Oh yes. You're building like a tower up to try and get the snow to fall so you could get the snowman stuff.
Yeah, and I found out that snow never, like, you can't go high enough to get snow to fall in a forest.
Oh.
Or at least I don't think so.
Harsh.
It's rain all the way up to 256 or whatever the Y is. But I did go back to a snow biome. Oh, remember? Yeah, I set up that base.
Yes,
I talked about a base in the snow. I gathered up a bunch of snow and pumpkins.
Can I recommend a name for the base?
Oh,
Hoth.
Hoth? Oh,
yes.
Hoth, the snow base.
Yes.
Okay.
Ice Base Hoth.
Yeah, I hadn't named it yet, so there we go. Now it has a name.
Just make sure to spell it differently so Disney doesn't send a cease and desist.
Well, at the moment, I'm not actually making videos, so the only person who knows...
Well, I mean, we are doing a podcast. We want to make sure we at least spell it in a variety that would allow for it to fall under the realm of parody.
So, H-A-A-T-H?
How about just 7 O's pronounced as one with umlauts?
H-A-W-T-H?
Yeah, okay, yeah. If anybody asks, it's supposed to be pronounced Hot H.
Yeah. I gathered up some snow and I brought it back to my where I'm living, which is the Mesa base. And then I built like this huge tower. And I built this sort of glass enclosure, like way up in the sky. And I put all the snowmen in there with glass on top so the rain doesn't kill them.
Oh, yes.
And then so now, rather than just build a thing on the ground, which would have been smarter, but...
Not as beautiful, I think, to some degree.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, then, because I've been slowly terraforming my desert into magical forest, I should see if snow golems survive in a magic forest despite the rain.
Yeah, they might.
Imagine that. I could effectively have snow golems in the heart of a desert.
There you go.
The power of what I've been doing. All right.
So I have a snow farm, I guess it is. Yeah,
snow farm.
Near my base now, near my main base.
Dig it.
And I've been wanting to. I want to build like what you have, like a giant reflecting pool.
I am really loving that, because mine start off just like next to my town there's like a large puddle. They call it a lake. I've expanded it almost perfectly. I'm still working at the one edge. I'm waiting for my tools to regenerate a little bit more.
Right.
And then I'll have a nice, effectively reflecting pool in one corner of my city, and it looks, right now, just so beautiful with the trees outlined and then the wall behind it.
Yeah, so I've been wanting to do one of those. So I've been basically clearing some land to do that. So that was a little bit of Minecraft. And the other thing, with my siblings, and my parents get into it too, we've been watching Merlin, the TV series.
I've heard good things about it. I haven't seen it. Wait, the current Merlin or the one from, like, the 2-season thing from the UK?
It would be, I think they all have American accents.
In that case, it would likely be the more modern one, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's 4 seasons, maybe 5.
Oh, yes, this definitely would not be the British one.
Yeah. And it is, it's okay. I'm enjoying it. It's definitely, you can tell it's a caliber below, like, Game of Thrones, but I guess that's not really...
That's a pretty high caliber, you know?
It's a high bar to meet. But
and keep in mind, before that, there was a much lower bars before. Check out any of that sort of stuff, especially with like Robin Hood from the 90s, and you'll go back to Merlin and go, "Oh my God, this is magical! Look at the special effects; they're so good."
Yeah. So It's not the greatest, but it's definitely worth, like, I'm enjoying the storylines a little bit.
That's the main thing.
Yeah.
A good storyline will keep a person in. A bad storyline, it doesn't matter how good it looks.
So just got into Merlin and stuff.
Oh, very nice. So you recommend it?
I'd say. It's on Netflix right now, so if
those of you who have Netflix living in this 21st century, crazy people.
You never know.
I think I've seen some of the stuff over at the library having discs of it.
Yeah, your local library might.
That said, I'm looking over towards the Doctor Who stuff myself and just maybe watching
Does our library?
It has a lot of Who. Not all Who, but a lot of it. That said, most Doctor Who is actually on Netflix too. So.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I like the pursuit. I like the hunting of it. It's like, oh boy, this is like a very good. Was it the Fourth Doctor? I found a very special. This is a very plot-wise one. This one has repercussions later on throughout the various seasons. Oh, I'm watching this. At least I would have sort of thing. And we decided to go with the Scooby-Doo for Zoe this week.
Oh, okay.
It's a live-action one. Sarah Michelle Gellar,
Yeah.
I think she'll enjoy it.
I think that's it for.
Yeah,
I think that's all I did for. A couple comedy shows, but I don't know what to say about those.
People laughed at your jokes. I hope it was your jokes they were laughing at.
Well, on Monday I got some laughs, and then
Tuesday, man, nobody laughed at all.
Well, I didn't get to go up on Thursday, and Friday and Saturday I watched like professional comedy.
Did you watch or did you study them?
Studied pretty much.
There you go.
Well, I don't know if I should be proud or ashamed of this, but like when I go to the comedy club, I don't get food or alcohol or anything. Like I don't like to, and I do like. It's not that I'm not.
You really want to hone your game before you start putting some alcohol in that equation, eh?
Yeah, but I deliberately don't go there for the food and drinks. I just go there for the comedy.
Not even the chicken wings.
No.
Oh.
I might again when I'm
financially
when I have another
liquid,
job and have enough money to be spending money on.
Until then, you're just stealing the chicken wings when no one's looking, and you don't say a word.
Steal them off of other people's plates.
They taste better that way, Yeah. I won't lie. Try it out. Everyone there. It's like try sneaking just a little something off somebody else's plate. It tastes so much better.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I don't know if they have, I haven't checked, but it's funny because, restaurants and stuff, they throw out food all the time. So
they do.
If you were homeless or whatever, that'd be something you could... I think they lock up their garbages, though.
Yeah. Which is a shame, because there's a lot of good bread that could just go to the birds, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And those ravens, and the crows, they need the food because they got big brains proportionately. They got to think.
Yeah.
Don't let their brains starve. Feed a raven today.
Yeah. Okay.
But I have actually been doing a little bit more in the realm of fiction, but we're saving this for the concept of the topic this week.
Okay, I think we're ready to go.
So yes, you posed a question to me last week about whether or not a Hutt could also have Jedi powers.
Oh yeah.
And I looked it up. Good news, bad news is... Good news is the answer is apparently the Force is a living thing, so any living creature can have it. Mm-hmm. Although apparently the more genetically modified ones are less likely to have access to the Force.
Okay.
Like the Kaminoans, the ones that made all the clone warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are almost unheard of to have Force users amongst them.
Okay.
Although that said, there's one Sith sort of thing for that. It's oh yeah.
I think that bothers me a little bit because of the whole because genetically modified doesn't mean a lot. It doesn't mean they're
They are heavily genetically modified in order to survive after global warming on their planet, and the end of an ice age meant there was no land for them to be on anymore.
Yeah, but they're still technically biological, right?
They are biological, which is why the Force is a potential with them.
Okay.
The Force is a living thing. Droids are immune to it and cannot access it.
Oh,
that's the big thing there. Yeah. You can't use a Jedi mind trick on C-3PO. He's just gonna pester you in his weird, effeminate way. Oh well. So apparently it's a natural sort of thing. So maybe they've just that's the thing with the Kaminoans is that they've predisposed themselves to extra hardiness, and apparently the Force comes from midichlorians, which is like an infection. So you can get rid of the Force with enough chicken noodle soup. under some views. Because they've made themselves hardier and more resistant to the things that would help grant them force powers, they're less likely to have it. It turns out Hutts can indeed have it. Now, this is very interesting because, the first thought I had was like a Hutt telling a bunch of like Imperial, scout troopers, whatnot, you do not need to inspect my ship. Of course I'm not carrying any illegal goods. And then, bam, you're the best smuggler in all the galaxy. Wow, boy, isn't that a nice, easy trick for you, right?
Yeah, that's good.
That said, there's only one known instance from the Wikipedia I found where there was a Hutt with Jedi powers, and he wound up becoming a Sith. He did survive Order 66 for the execution of the Jedi. That said, he got his head blown off by Leia, after everything was done for Episode 6. So
okay.
On the other hand, he was like pretty darn buff for a Hutt, man. He had like a kind of like a six-pack thing going. He was like rock out, dude.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing, because you see the Hutts and you see them, it's like, oh my goodness, there's like no bones at all about you. But then you see this one here, so he's got a bit of a bicep, not huge like muscles, but a bit of a bicep tone going on there, and a bit of a six-pack instead of just a big old flabby guy. It's like, yeah, these guys look a little bit more respectable, a little less like a molten pile of green feces. So, yay! Unfortunately, he turned to the Sith power, so it's like, oh. And apparently the reason for that is because the Hutts are naturally greedy, which is the least way to become a Sith. Hatred, anger, and desire for revenge. That's the good stuff that leads you down there. Right. Greed is a very hard lure down that path, but it is apparently at least a lure. And if you're weak against that, like the Hutts are, well, you're susceptible. But I've been thinking this week, I've been planning up stuff for creating like just maybe a small, not an entire campaign, but just a nice little adventure with a force-sensitive Hutt. Joshua the Hutt.
Alright, that's alright. Yeah.
And so I've been thinking about various things, just like how am I going to run this sort of campaign. And the biggest thing about the Hutts, as most people know, is they do not have feet. They are gastropods. And so they are naturally a very slow creature. And I'm looking at it's like, okay, this is making it interesting for combat. Like, I can't include an adventure that's going to have a chase scene, because you're going to lose. You move at a fraction of the speed everyone else does. Even if you're at a full tilt, I can't even call it a run for like there's no proper term for a slug moving at fastest speed possible. That's not exactly a run by any stretch, right?
Alright.
So like if you're running after someone, they're going to get away, and if they're running after you, you're not going to escape. So it's like, well, geez, that really changes the perspective of how combat and fights will wind up going. Mm-hmm. And so the more I thought about this, the more I'm like, okay, imagine this no, that doesn't work. Imagine this no, that doesn't work. It's like, oh, this is a very challenging character because of their slow movement speed. And so that's going to wind up being like our concept for this week is the difficult character. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because I've had, characters I've played in the D20 stuff before. I've run it under, and they say, you really shouldn't play anything smaller than small, because otherwise, the bonuses you get from being small are potentially overwhelming. It's very hard to hit you, and it's very easy for you to hide. And I remember doing a campaign back in 3.5 where one of the characters was a fairy. But I didn't have any issue with it.
A little fairy.
Yeah, it was a very small fairy.
Okay.
I think it was, the smallest size, almost the smallest size category that you guys had.
Like 8 inches tall?
Yeah, it was a tiny fairy.
Okay.
And so it was like, by the time you get around the mid-level, just a 2 or 3 point bonus to your AC doesn't really cause a lot of effect. You get better bonuses to your AC by casting a few first-level wizard spells.
Yeah.
For mage armor and the shield spell, you can get a much better AC than being a fairy warrior. So it's like, wow, I don't see why people saw this to be a challenge. I did not find it challenging to run, a campaign with a fairy PC.
Right, and the other thing about a properly played party is if you're the kind of character, like if you're the wizard, or if you're the kind of character who has low AC or low hit points or something like that, or low hit points and high AC, you're probably not on the front lines necessarily.
Shouldn't be if everything's going according to a party plan.
So ideally, you're not getting hit that much anyways. So yeah.
Well, I mean, some people say like, oh, with their like, because instead of like a +1 per size category, it's +4 for stuff like hide, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh no, look at that like huge hike, +16 hide bonus. No one's ever going to see you. But you know, like if you're a rogue and you're putting, that's where you're doing your hide checks, right? You're going to get, oh boy, no one can ever see me. But dude, you're 8 inches tall. Your maximum lifting capacity is 3 pounds. Like that.
Yeah. What are you going to steal?
Are you gonna steal like 2 gems? Like there's some magic items you cannot like actually take away with you. It just weighs too much.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, oh well, there goes like the extra benefits of being able to sneak and peek all around you want. You could make an argument about like a wizard, like, oh, I'm very hard to hit and I've got all these spells. You know what hits at any size? Fireball, area of effect. If you're casting Fireball, chances are eventually so will they. Mm-hmm. And you've got very little hit points because of your small size. Congratulations, you burn up really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also very hard to hit an invisible character. 50% miss chance, right?
Yeah.
And you can get that at 3rd level, as as the invisibility spell. So once you get past, I'll say 3rd level, the effects of being small wound up being like inconsequential by and large. And so what I thought was, this is going to be a very hard character with this one, this tiny little character. It's like, no, actually quite easy. Not a challenge at all. And I have no idea why people were always poo-pooing it on the internet. It's like, I was expecting some sort of, oh no, breaking the game balance. It's like, no, not really at all.
Okay.
If anything, the personality of the fairy caused more issues than the physical stats. I remember one time where she was acting like a true fairy is, and went into her little flying house, which is where she spent most of the generation, character generation, monies, into just buying a flying house.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, I won't come out until you sing for me. And I remember, because you were in this campaign, Josh, everyone else had to make checks to try and sing to get her out. Yeah. You got to entice the fairy out with this weird little fairy demand. That caused more of an issue than the high AC. So it's like, like how bad can it be when the character traits, outrank that, right?
Yeah.
So how about you? Have you ever had a challenging campaign character?
Like as a DM?
As a DM or as a player, in your various years, on either side of the shield.
I don't know. I mean, only just in that sometimes people found a way to really bump up their one stat or another. Like, I don't know, barbarians had a lot of strength, so they would just, one-shot a bad guy, something like that.
I like my barbarian that was focused solely on jumping, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'm jumping past it, man. Woo!
Yeah.
I love that guy.
But I don't remember, jumping ever really breaking the game, because
there were some weird rules we had to effectively host rule. Like, if I'm in transit for 3 rounds, what am I doing the other 2? Isn't that effectively a free motion? Can I throw an item or something at someone? So we had to rule okay, if you start and end your turn as a moving projectile, you get a penalty to attack, but you can throw stuff at someone. It's like, woo! I avoided a lot of pit traps and swimming hazards. I'll say that.
Yeah, but usually when an adventure designer or a dungeon master, whichever happens to be designing the adventure, when they put in something like, oh, here's a gap or here's a chasm that you have to somehow get across, usually they intend for the players to figure out some way to get across.
Mind you, that is one of the big perils of D&D. I have heard many lamentations of dungeon masters saying the party can get rid of an entire a illithid hunting party in 15 minutes of combat. 15 real-time minutes worth of combat, and yet it will take them 3 hours to get across a pit trap 10 feet wide.
Yeah.
So, surprisingly complex, simple problem sometimes.
I think I really as much as sometimes it feels like, oh, come on, get on with the action, I really like those moments, especially if you can get everybody in the group in on that discussion, where it's just that, discussing the tensile strength of the rope. Like, that rope won't hold your weight, and, well, let's see if it,
I'm telling you, I'm looking at the balance check right here. If there's 6 inches between the wall and the pit trap, I should be able to shimmy across the side. But that leaves us on the other side still, and then you're all alone. What if there's like a monster waiting to attack you? That's right. Don't go over until we got at least 2 other party members on the side. Then we'll have you go across.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we tie each other together with a rope just in case one of us falls? We'll be able to haul each other out. It's okay, but we got to put the 2 strong guys at each end. That way, it doesn't lead to a whole issue where everyone falls down, being dragged by the next person, behind them, right?
Yeah, I remember
wonderful arguments. Love them.
Not long ago, well, I guess it's a couple months ago now, but at one of the Roll for Initiative games, the DM had a Coliseum sort of collapse on us. And it's that's collapsing, and there's sinkholes opening up, and it's that's awesome and stuff. But it's he's the clock is ticking. He's you got to get out of here. And then he threw in little things now you see some people trapped under some rubble. And I guess that the idea is to sort of force that moral choice. Do you leave them or do you save them?
I headshot them. So that way they won't have to suffer. How much experience do I get?
I think one of the players suggested that. But then I was well, let's get out some rope and let's, climb down. And it becomes that scene where it's 15 minutes of arguing about climbing down a hole. Meanwhile, the whole, Coliseum
would it be
collapsing.
considered really rude just to, set up the rope so they can crawl out on their own and then just hey, at least I gave you a chance. I'm getting out of here myself.
Yeah, I think we considered that option.
That's morally neutral, though, right? I help you out, but I'm not going to be there to oversee the entire thing.
I think it's technically... I'd say it's technically a tiny bit of good.
Well, it is good that you're helping someone and you are spending your own resources in the rope.
You're giving up something of your own to try and help.
But you're really not guaranteeing it, so it's a very what is it? Maybe a loose leash good.
Well, if you give out of 10 points of goodness, maybe the throwing the rope to them is 2 points. Actually, pulling them out would be the full 10 points.
Yeah, if you got the full strength to do it quickly, otherwise you're really struggling with it, and then everyone's in trouble.
I guess that's the dilemma of goodness is that do you put yourself in peril and possibly die yourself in order to, because that's considered a good act, self-sacrifice. Even
they say it's good, but it really doesn't seem that good to me. It seems foolish good or lawful foolish, depending how you want to look at it, the alignment system.
I think I would count it as good, but.
Mind you, I'm speaking as a biologist. We actually have equations on this stuff, depending on how related the character is you're helping to you, and the liable payoff of added offspring from them to your own reproductive potential. So that if I was to help my brother, and he has a coefficient of relatedness of 0.25, and hindering me to chances of how many less kids am I likely to have by expending these resources versus how much is he likely to have, and then you work out the equation if it's a net positive, so that helping him gets more kids that are somehow related to me as opposed to ones I would lose that are personally related to me as my own kids. Then I go for it. If not, I'm not supposed to help. It doesn't actually benefit.
Right.
Although, boy, if Adam ever gets out of that, and it turns out I didn't help him, boy, would I never hear the end of it. So there's some extra equations to be put in there.
Yeah, there is that. There's the risk of repercussion.
Not helping at all, yeah.
Although I'd imagine somewhere in the conscience of a, good, really good, maybe exalted good person is darn the consequences, or, darn the math. Just do.
Never tell me the odds.
Just go ahead and take that risk.
But here's the thing. I mean, you can look at it as an equation of helping these people is a good deed. I will be saving. How many people were in the pit?
2.
There's 2 people. Saving the 2 people in the pit versus how many people will I save if I don't help these people but continue living to help others later on?
Yeah.
So if you help 3 people throughout the rest of your long adventuring life, you've technically done a net amount of greater good.
Well, let me put it this way. I don't think it counts towards the evil end of the spectrum.
No. This is
to save yourself.
Yeah, killing them sort of thing would be considered a 2-point evil. Actively taunting them and mocking them. That I could see getting closer to the 5 to 7 range of evil.
Yeah. And like that's all I'm saying is it just doesn't grant you extra points to make that justification as I'll save myself so I can do more good in the future. That doesn't fly with me. Yes, it's allowed. Like I'm okay with you, but I'm not counting that as in your goodness quotient.
That does seem very morally neutral. In that case.
And if you want to do a morally neutral act so that you can do more good acts later, that's
especially
fine.
That could be a very good role playing grist to make sure you get yourself towards that exalted end of the good. I feel so bad about saying no, I can't help you, I have to save myself. I now go out of my way to help anybody else I can. I never want that to repeat. So you could use that and say put the hand up to the side of your head sometimes, to indicate I'm talking out of character. It's like I'm doing this because I want to get that role playing opportunity to really feel bad about this later. I really don't mean to be a dick about it now, but I've been thinking about changing my character towards the good, and this allows me to get that good role playing opportunity to reason why.
Yeah.
That seems a little metagamey, but, that should fly for most people to understand why the person decides to have that moment of cowardness in the longer perspective.
Yeah, I think so. And sometimes you see like sort of that, that priest who's a little bit cowardly, who's like, I have to save myself so that later on I can serve the flock.
That's right. Speaking of the watching the Robin Hood stuff from the 90s, I remember one about that where there's a big fight going on in Friar Tuck, sort of thing. He does, one guy's charging at him from the enemy. He holds up the cross and goes, "Kneel before the Lord," and the guy suddenly, my goodness, this is a man of the cloth, and he goes down there, and Friar Tuck just bashes him over the head with like a pot or something. He goes, "Beware the wrath of God," and then runs away. It was hilarious. Like that scene's never going to leave my mind. I love that. I was just flipping through the channels. I saw that. I laughed and I laughed and I laughed. But yeah, the cowardly good cleric is like, I'm not actually meant for a fight, so I will just I'll stop any opponent I can and then get myself out of here.
Yeah.
That's okay. Not everyone needs to be a martial hero. I mean, just, because Superman's saving the day by, beating up a villain every, week to save the planet doesn't mean you can't also be a good person by doing non-combat related good deeds.
Yeah. Oh, and do you remember, Saving Private Ryan, where, Private Ryan he's just a regular soldier. There's nothing that special about him.
Well, the special thing about him was that all his brothers had already been lost, and thus it was their job to make sure the mother of, the private, Ryan's mom, had, at least one son come back from the war. It was considered a very poor act to have a lady lose all, her sons. Because apparently she had no husband either. This was back in the day when, if you're a woman, and you have no male to help, help make ends meet for you, good luck trying to, survive in society. World War II and all that sort of craziness going on, right? So
they actually ended up, spending other soldiers' lives, multiple lives.
But those, no spoiler alert, but it's not everyone who starts the mission comes back alive, but it was for the good of making sure that at least, this one lady could get her son back, whereas, dude, you've got brothers galore. Two of them aren't even in the army, man. You're more expendable than this Private Ryan guy.
Yeah, so that's a little, I don't know, how we got off into this morality tangent again, but...
Well, I mean, that's one of the things, too, is some people say there's a very hard time playing different moral alignments in a group.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't experienced that, provided the people play a more realistic alignment.
Yeah.
So long as your alignment grid does not contain the word cartoonishly, so you don't have cartoonishly evil.
Right.
It should be okay.
Yeah.
I found, done with the right pretext, you can get, a lot of variety in the alignments working together, usually with some divine guidance. That's one of the reasons I've always dug the Scarred Lands for the 3.0, 3.5 setting. All the gods are part of one pantheon, and they all are working together against a greater outside force. So, lawful evil, lawful good, chaotic evil, chaotic good, they're all expected to work together. So you can have an assassin and a paladin working together, no alignment conflicts, no personality conflicts, because you know what? There's worse stuff outside, than you, Mr. Assassin, and we have got to make sure this stuff doesn't come rampaging through and killing everyone. And the assassin's like, well, I'm up for that, sure. Or remind you, if the opportunity presents itself once those things are done, and just little stab in the side of the paladin, so be it. That's the nature of evil. You always got to watch your back around them. And that's perfectly fine by me. So, I mean, that sets itself up for much easier time, provided you prep for that. So tell me, Josh, as the player, how would you like to see a campaign starring your very slow-moving, force-wielding Hutt?
Oh, yeah, well, we were going to talk about that, because another thing that happens is you have this great idea for a character with some disability, or like is really slow, or is blind or something.
I have played a blind person, but thanks to feats and 3rd edition, they were not effectively blind within 30 feet and could see better than most people normally could within 5 feet. So I was getting rid of that flaw by using feats and other tricks.
Yeah, so it ultimately just ends up being a cost of, the
stuff
that you get anyways. Like
I was just trying for a concept.
Yeah, or it might be, if it's a sci-fi campaign, it might be an item. Or like Geordie LaForge is blind, but he just has a machine that
allows him to see trippy hippie vision.
So now he can suddenly see better than everybody else. So what was the point of making the character blind?
It was to show the future that disabilities are not disabilities in the future. Yeah. They actually wind up becoming a potential benefit, especially in the technophobic future of Star Trek. They really don't seem big on cybering you up. And what happens if you cyber up too much? You go with the Borg.
Yeah, that's true. The Borg are scary.
There's very few cyborg good guys in that series. You might have an artificial heart, might have an artificial limb, sort of thing. Get your visor going on, but it's not like, oh no, like my eyesight was perfect. I just wanted to see in the ultra-red, infraviolet, and all that, and I get going on that way. And so it's like you don't see that, and that's something I would have expected to happen. But apparently, no. In the future, when you're living in that sort of era, you have no desire to increase yourself beyond the human threshold.
Yeah,
a little weird that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or I guess the Vulcan threshold, the Rhodian threshold, all the other races and all that.
So yeah, in role-playing games in particular, oftentimes, like for the Hutt example, he might get a repulsor chair or something, so that he can actually basically move at normal speed. And so that
maybe he qualifies as being even bigger in that case. I think he's naturally a big creature. So in which case, he winds up being even less nimble.
Dungeon doors or whatever, but okay.
He can get to the dungeon. It's just good luck, outrunning that, Indiana Jones, ball of death coming down, right?
Yeah, which is why, in the lore of the Star Wars expanded universe. Oftentimes the Hutts are described as sort of staying at home and just sort of manipulating things from the back.
That is their preferred style. They see themselves as semi-divine. That is their role, is to, do the contract negotiations. This is not their role to be running around like some sort of crazy human maniac.
Yeah, but there is this thing especially in D&D, is often if you throw in a disability, it's like, well, he'll just have something to cover for that. So you
lose your hand? Well, that's okay. We've got the hand of Vecna. Lose your entire arm? Well, welcome to Dragonlance. We have the silver arm of Ergoth. Not only does it, get you your arm back, it allows you to forge dragon lances. It's like, what? Yeah. So a lot of times in fantasy, the drawback actually becomes extra bonus, which I find a little weird.
Yeah.
Because then it's not a drawback at all. It's like Matt Murdock, a.k.a. Daredevil, is blind, but his other senses are heightened to such a degree that it doesn't impact him. So is he really a disabled superhero?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people spending a lot of time writing a lot of words on either side of that fence. Yeah. Ultimately, I don't think I'm big enough to have the definitive answer on anything like that. But I do find it changes the nature of the campaign and the style.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it leads itself to jokes. I remember Daredevil fighting one villain who, he's got various powers, and he touches Daredevil's foot, and he goes, "Ha, now you're blind, you can't see a thing." And, everybody who knows Daredevil basically just snickers at it. Daredevil doesn't stop doing what he's doing. He's already blind. You did nothing to him. You touched his ankle. Congratulations, buddy. And so, I guess it sets itself up for the occasional. You don't want to do that all the time. Well, mind you, I mean, some of the better things I remember about him are that for a while his identity became, air quotes, publicly known. Everyone suspected he was Daredevil. And the one lady was trying to, force him into proving he was Daredevil, but she didn't know that Daredevil was blind. Because how could he, I mean, look at him moving around there. How can a blind person do that, right? How did he see all these, shrieking incoming as he's fighting ninjas? And so then you wind up with a situation where she thinks Matt Murdock isn't blind. And so she's doing all sorts of stuff where she's trying to entice him into getting a reaction. Like walking around with the blouse off, saying you are, Daredevil on the bra cup, sort of thing. And he knows because of his hypersenses, but he can't react to any of it. And so he's playing dumb, and she's playing, extra flirtatious crazy, and it's driving him nuts, sort of thing, because it's like he knows, but he has to act like he doesn't know. And I found that it was a montage series of panels. Loved it. Absolutely loved that bit. I wouldn't want to see it all the time, though. It's a nice spice on this Daredevil cake that is his life.
Yeah. Do you find that, have you ever read a novel with a character that's sort of either disabled or, has some disability? I was reading...
Does naivete count as a disability? Because I've read a lot of stories where it's like, I'm just a simple farmhand. How can I be expected to save the world? When it's like, dude... Everyone knew this was going to happen except you. Everyone's fault for not teaching you how to survive out in wild. All you knew how to do is slaughter pigs for a life, and you got to go save the world against the big bad, not actually Satan being.
Because I find, I think I've read a couple of novels with characters who are, missing a hand or missing, or... wheelchair bound or something. I even actually read there's one.
It was the Extreme Ghostbusters where one of them was wheelchair bound, but he had all his stuff hooked up, so he had a better power pack than most that way, I suppose.
There's one, I think it's called Johnny Got His Gun, unless I'm remembering wrong, but it's a novel from based on I think somebody in Vietnam who had all his he got in a big accident and lost his limbs and all of his senses.
Ooh.
And I think he could hear, but I'm not sure now. Anyways, basically he was, sort of locked in, how that is?
Yeah.
And the whole novel is about his, he's basically dreaming or remembering his life, so that's what a lot of the action is.
I gotta say, if I was really locked into my body, I would very definitely likely turn in myself.
Yeah, it would be very difficult.
There's not much else to do. If all you can do is hear things, it's like, well, unless you put me next to a good radio station, there's not going to be much keeping my interest.
That's true.
Or I suppose a very entertaining podcast.
Yeah,
wink.
Just put on the Simulationist for those guys.
At least it's something, but
maybe somebody could be listening to us right now in that sort of condition.
I hope I'm making their life a little better then.
I hope so.
That said, it's a very hard hurdle, and I imagine writing that must have been very difficult as well.
Yeah, it's a different experience. But I was sort of trying to make a point about novels was that it's a little bit easier in novels to talk about sort of either disabilities or people with blindness, for example.
Or fantastic blindness, I'm a bat species.
Yeah, something like that. Because I guess, people can picture or not picture, as the case may be, what the person is seeing. Whereas it's more difficult to portray something like that in a movie or even in a role-playing game for that matter, because role-playing games sort of expect a certain, go in the dungeon.
Tactical level.
Be a fighting hero and stuff like that. But novels can can stray from that.
Very, very good point on that one.
Thank you.
Well, that's the thing is with novel writing, you do have a very, very good venues open that a lot of the role-playing and movie stuff. Honestly, if the person's blind and you're doing it from their perspective the entire way through, is it really like a movie or is it just like a radio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what, have I brought up my, Dwarf Trek idea that I started writing and sort of kind of...
Other things came up.
But that was, the whole idea behind that was that it was, what if there was sort of an adventuring party of dwarves that sort of did everything in the dark and turned that into, instead of being like a TV show, because so much of it is dark, just make it a podcast and then you hear them, they talk. And
you can
stuff,
do a little bit of
that.
animation where you only show like the cartoon character eyes bopping around.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. That's all it is.
But yeah, I had that idea a little while ago, which I still could, resurrect.
I think it works well as in the podcast sort of format.
Yeah.
I think something like a Welcome to Night Vale works quite well in that similar regard. Being able to describe it. I really dug the Shadow that way. His invisibility effectively made everybody blind, so you have to describe things.
Yeah.
Or at least selectively blind. That said, it's a wonder he didn't fight more villains who didn't just turn off the lights. One, you can't hypnotize the guy if you can't see his eyes. Mm-hmm. Two, then congratulations, you both have the power of the Shadow.
Yeah, but he's more experienced with that power, so he might be.
That's the thing. At least you're doing better off than he's got such a huge advantage, right?
Yeah, I guess he reduces his advantage a little.
Because they do that sort of thing in the Invisible Man movies. He's got the one guy trapped in a situation where he wants, and the guy closes the blind so it's dark and says, "Now we're both invisible." It's like, oh, that's a pretty good line from a villain.
Yeah.
When fight happens in the dark, you can't see anything, and then one guy gets knocked out a window. It's also, there's light shining again.
But aren't most of the Shadow's villains, and we watched the film version of it, but aren't they all kind of not all that intelligent? Anyways?
Well, that's the thing. Everyone seems to have heard the Shadow, but it's like, I can't see you anywhere. And he has to explain, that's because I've clouded your mind. You can't see me. And he always has to explain that every darn time.
Yeah.
They do seem to not be using all their abilities to their greatest potential. But maybe that's just me with how I see things from this wonderful world far in the future.
Possibly, yeah.
Plus, if they were using stuff to their greatest potential, would that really work well for a 1-hour radio broadcast?
Well, yeah, and would they be villains? Wouldn't they be investment bankers?
Wait, Lex Luthor is still a villain, despite his being a multi-billionaire.
Yeah.
It's his attitude that makes him so good. A villain. Not just the fact that he's creating sort of crazy stuff that winds up duplicating Superman imperfectly. No, now you've got Bizarro. So be it. But yes, I find it very interesting as to what character traits wind up becoming hard to work with and which ones aren't.
Right.
I've worked with a variety of off-the-wall characters. I did a campaign with an awakened dog and an intelligent Ioun Stone.
Yeah.
And I had very little issue with that.
Yeah.
Mind you, the Ioun Stone was going around the dog's head, so wherever the dog went, Stone had to follow. You guys couldn't split up as a party.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was not very difficult to run, at least for a little bit, for just for a fun time sort of campaign, right?
Yeah.
And that, that's like a creature without any hands versus something with technically no body.
Yeah.
It was just a floating, just a small mind orbiting around a head.
Have you ever read novels that are from an animal's perspective?
A few of them, yeah. In which case, the concept of this got to manipulate things. Dang you doors, you confound me yet again.
I remember there was one I read called Last of the Curlews, and a curlew is like a sparrow, like a special kind of sparrow. And it had the whole story about its migration and all this, describing. It was a whole a thin novel that
It doesn't need to be a 300-pound novel every time you start writing one.
Right. But it was the whole, it was very scientific, the whole life cycle of the curlew.
Sort of like a Farley Mowat sort of thing?
I think it was a little bit like Farley Mowat, yeah.
Dig it.
A little bit like that whole Canadian,
Very nice.
Hinterland Who's Who.
Oh. I kind of want to watch it more now that I've got the song playing in my head. That's in some places, some of the stuff I've watched just doesn't seem to care. I'm watching a thing with My Little Pony with my daughter. She needs a little something to settle her down, so I get her some ponies to watch.
Yeah.
And they're just holding on to stuff with the hoof, despite the fact, there's no digits to really hold on.
Yeah.
Or, one time I saw it where, the one's trying to blow a balloon, bubble balloon sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's all, the wand is taped to the hoof, and I'm like, how did you get the tape on there? It's never explained. It's just a quick little image sort of thing that blows the balloon sort of thing, figure. And it's never explained again. It's
And can a horse make its mouth into the right shape to blow up a balloon?
I figure if they're somewhat not quite really horses, I'm willing to give a good amount of leeway on this sort of thing. Yeah. But still, man, you got like no fingers to work with, and like how are you manipulating a lot of these objects? It turns out with the mouth a lot of the time. I do like seeing that, but every once in a while they'll just be holding something in like the hoof as though it were some sort of weird, crazy half hand. It's like, wait, come on, man.
You know, it's weird. Like for the little amount that we actually use our mouths, I think the human mouth is actually rather good at
We are quite dexterous. Well, that's the thing. Right now, we're using it well beyond most species' capabilities by talking as we are.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, you can go even better, and you got that whole trick about tying a cherry stem with your tongue.
Yeah, like what animal can do that?
What animal wants to do that first might be a better question.
Although there
kind of puts it down to chimpanzees, maybe.
I mean, if you could teach them how to do there, I bet there are animals with more like.
Well, I got to say, just because
tongues.
Well, maybe, but you need the big cheek space too.
Yeah.
So while birds have very good beak manipulation abilities, especially crows and ravens, they just don't have the cheek space to work at all with their tongue to tie that sort of stem.
Yeah, true.
So you really have to hit that sweet spot for this crazy little trick of ours.
Yeah.
And even then, the true trick is before you start the trick, you get a tied up cherry stem and you put it, in your mouth, and you just keep it in between your gum and your cheek, and then you pretend to do it, and you switch one for the other.
Oh, that's how it goes.
Well, you can do it, sort of thing, but if you can't do it with your tongue, that's how you can, air quotes, trick. Do it. Yeah, that's the Penn and Teller magic tricks version of it. I spoiled it for everyone, but whatever.
You did.
Some people can actually do it, but like if you can't do it with your own tongue, you still want to impress the ladies with your tongue skills. That's what you do. You do a little prep work in advance. You put the tied one in there, and you can speak perfectly. You can do it you can have it put in there for like almost an hour beforehand, and it's a cherry stem, so it's not just going to dissolve. So you can do that well in advance, and then pull it out, and feel like, no, man, I've been watching him for like 20 minutes, and he wasn't putting anything in his mouth there. Bam, you got them fooled.
Yeah.
Verisimilitude.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately what I've gotten from this, because I've mentioned this a few times, prep work is the solution to this difficult campaign style. It is difficult story.
Well, it's a little bit like writing a novel, is that you don't want to put your character into a situation that it's just going to be like, oh, okay, well, I sit down and wait at the dungeon door for someone to come and open it for me. Or so,
Well, that's it. I mean, it doesn't hurt to show their limitations as they are.
Yeah.
Your Hutt is not going to be running around. You can show how much he doesn't want to get into a situation where he needs to make a hasty advance or retreat.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, I suppose you can give him some of them force-using abilities, and this, you're too far away. Force choke, force choke, force choke. Done. Mm-hmm. Bring you close to me, and now I'll smack you in person. Ookie cheesy wah.
Can I tell our listeners about our email address?
Yes, by all means.
TheSimulationist@gmail.com is where you can send us email. You can, all the long thoughts you have about that probably go
if you found a campaign that works like solely based around like having these defects or thing, and what it's like to try and work around to overcome it, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, that'd be really
I don't think GURPS has covered that end. GURPS covers a lot, but I don't think they've covered that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're paying attention out there, GURPS writers, here's your next niche book.
If you want to share thoughts like with sort of the whole community or like anybody else who might be listening to The Simulationist, probably the Facebook page, facebook.com/TheSimulationist.
That's right.
Is the best place to leave those comments. But you can also leave comments on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheSimulationist. Where this show, along with all the other shows, just goes up with a little graphic. Not really much more than that, but it is another medium for communication.
That's the thing. We're about the audio communication. We're not about wowing you with fireworks displays or anything like that.
Yeah, although sometimes I think that might be a good idea. But anyway, that's for a future thing.
Well, I suppose we could always do something like Yahtzee Croshaw, where we just have like funny images correlating to what we're saying.
Yeah, we could do something like that. Yeah.
See how it works.
Yeah.
No big demand. I think the people out there who listen to us like us for our intellectual attributes, not our ability to be like these dancing monkeys for them.
That's right. We are not your dancing monkeys. You can tweet at me at Spaceboot1 on Twitter. And you can follow us on Patreon, in which case you also have the option of giving us lovely, lovely money, which we will have.
We don't demand it, but it does help out for, getting new batteries.
We have batteries, we have hosting costs, and we like to have...
it would be nice to get double cheese on a pizza once.
Yeah, maybe you guys could buy us a pizza or something. Not that we're... Anyways, the podcast is free, but just if you felt like contributing, that'd be great.
Okay, we'll make you guys a deal. If you use one of our ideas to publish like a novel or a role-playing game or make a movie or anything like that, and you actually make money off it, you got to chip into our Patreon. How's that? It doesn't have to be a huge amount, just like the $1 a month. But if you wind up making enough money off our ideas, just consider chipping into the Patreon.
Do that. And give us reviews. Like if you happen to find the show on iTunes or Stitcher or some other podcatcher where you're allowed to leave a review, we would love to have your thoughts on the podcast.
Positive or negative. We'll take criticism.
For everyone to see and give us stars, as many as you think we deserve. And what else? Oh, and tell a friend. Tell a friend in real life. Tell all your friends that The Simulationist is the best show ever, the best podcast.
It's like, hey, dude, I suddenly realized how difficult it was to play that no-armed half-orc in your campaign. These guys really brought it to my attention that I probably should have given you at least some more prep time on this sort of thing. I'm sorry I sprung it on you. Give them a listen, and I guess I owe you a pizza with extra cheese.
There we go. Yeah.
We can be your amends, man. We can bridge that gap between you and the DM you did a dick move on.
That's right. I think that's all for that. Do we have final thoughts on this topic?
Prep and analysis. Know what you're going in for. If a player is going to be playing a very unconventional sort of character, I want to play an intelligent raptor. Figure out what sort of limitations are going to be going on there. For nothing else, we'll say it's a raptor that can actually grasp stuff at least somewhat properly. Mm-hmm. You still wind up with the concept dude, you can't walk down the street. You're a raptor. You're gonna scare people. There's no incognito. There is no disguise check score high enough for you to imitate like a real person, man.
Yeah.
So get this stuff in. If you're planning these unconventional characters, definitely take it up with the DM and see what you can do to make things work. Minimize the hassle for them. Increase your chances of going in on it. Plus, there are some very interesting, mystical items out there that maybe the DM's saying, I wouldn't mind this, but a person to get this item would have to lose their entire left arm. Who's going to have that? Say, well, I've been thinking, I want to play a character with just the one arm. Sort of thing, I'm a veteran, battle sort of thing. The only reason I'm still alive is thanks to a healer, but they couldn't save my arm. Or, the arm is evil. The arm is the villain, man. Kind of like an Evil Dead sort of thing with that evil one hand sort of thing. No, it's an entire limb. He uses the ventriloquist mouth thing to actually talk. He's the mastermind. Think about that. You make it a fun campaign sometimes, eh?
Yeah.
Or everyone in the party is missing a major limb that happens to be part of the Flesh Golem major villain.
Ooh.
Yeah. Frankenstein, Victor von Frankenstein was actually pretty darn generous in the fact that he only collected the body parts of the dead. Mm-hmm. To get the freshest body part, he could have hacked them all off when they were alive, stitched them all up quickly together, and gotten something fresher and better by taking slaves and captives and then mutilating them. Not as bad a monster as he could have been. Think about it. And then that way he's got you could have the whole existential thing, can I truly defeat someone who's not only myself, but so much better, he's a gestalt of all of us.
Mm.
So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it gives you a chance to, hey, I got an eye patch and peg legs, or I'm a pirate sort of style. Have some fun with it. Just to see what sort of sets you can find for a pirate hook. That's right, I'm missing a hand, but I got a hook on here, so I'm always armed.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
There you go. Have some fun with it. But yeah, definitely, I think it's the ultimate lesson. Prepare in advance on this. Make sure the DM is not caught unawares.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can. There's always challenges and situations that require what the character does have still available to themselves. Like, don't make every challenge about, you're blind. So it's more of this. I mean, you can
welcome to the maze of archery contests.
But yeah, you want to challenge the character on probably more of what he can do, or he or she, I should say.
So your Hutt is not supposed to go into like the Olympics for the high hurdle contest?
Yeah. Except maybe every once in a while, like, just have that, like, there's a thing that you can't get across because you chose that.
What sort of percentage would you put to that? 5%, 10%, maybe up to a quarter if it's a very bad thing?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
That's my thoughts, anyways. I mean, and this is without having actually gone through the adventure, so maybe up or down that percentage after.
Well, I think it depends on how major it is. If you've got a character who's mute, then if you're a spellcaster, you got to get an extra feat to work with the silent spells in 3rd edition and all that sort of thing. Otherwise, if you're a fighter, all you have to do is signal off or flip a bird, and there's your yes and no.
Yeah, that's true.
And see if you can't get a little extra role-playing experience for doing this sort of thing. Like, listen here, DM, I'm working hard at a character that's very different, is posing some much better challenges than standard role-playing stuff is. Any chance if I play my character accurately, I wind up getting like an extra little XP to wet my whistle?
Well, it depends on your DM. Some DMs will, and some.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
Okay. There's like a 1 in 20 chance the DM, oh no, congratulations, you've rolled a critical, failure on your diplomacy check with the DM. He's going to punish you for every time you don't play in character. But you should know about which DM that is you're going up against beforehand. It shouldn't be a 1 in 20 chance.
Indeed. Okay. Well, that's been a podcast.
I think it has been.
Another one.
Yeah. We'll see you again in 7 days.
I've been Josh 11.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.
And